Good morning, good morning. Thank you for having me here today. Again, clearing space. I'm not going to do a dance or anything, don't worry. Good morning, happy Sunday. Happy Columbus Day weekend, happy Canadian Thanksgiving. It's happening this weekend too. Let's give a shout out to my Canadians. I'm the only one in the room probably. I'm going to start with a little song, just to fulfill the promise that I am. There was a boy, a very strange, enchanted boy. They say he wandered very far over land and sea. And then one day, one magic day, he passed my way. And though we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me: the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. The greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. Simple. You know, when they put it to music, it sounds so simple. It sounds so easy. Yes, just be loved. And be loved in return. It all sounds so trickily easy. And we all know, being human, that it's not that simple. And in essence it is, but our journey in this lifetime is to figure that out. Everything we do is to get a sense of what it is just to be loved and just to express love as who we are. So thank you for welcoming me today. Thank you. This has been an amazing weekend again, and it's obviously the sun came out today, gorgeous. We needed the rain yesterday, and now we've got the sun, so it's all in perfect harmony for the day. The fact that I feel so at home here speaks, I just wanted to acknowledge that it speaks really, truly and highly of who you are as individuals and the community you brought together and you created together. What you've done and what you do and how you come together on Sunday, the spirit that you bring to it, the feeling that you bring to the room, allows us as guest speakers, as the rotating speakers, to feel at home. And I'll say that I speak in many places. I've taught and I've spoken, I've sung, I've danced, I've done many things in many different environments. And it doesn't always feel like this. It's not always a place where you can exhale and just be present and be solidly where you are. And what that says to me is that who you are and what you bring to Sundays is divinely guided, is supremely presenceful. And you're bringing a vibe, to speak of vibration as we were talking about earlier. It's not the space, it's not the building. You know you've been in other spaces, but the community remains. The quality of being that you are is fulfilling itself in the community that you're creating. The vision for this center is fulfilling itself every Sunday. And it's not fulfilling itself next week. It's not fulfilling itself next year. It may, but it's fulfilling itself right now. It's fulfilling itself as you show up. It's fulfilling itself as we gather every week. But it only can fulfill itself in the moment. And it's one of our core teachings in religious science that spiritual principle has its fulfillment in the individual. Spiritual principle, God, for those who want to call it God, light, for those who want to call it light, or whatever word you want to call it, can only fulfill itself, can only manifest itself through a particular thing. Principle particularizes it. Oh, I'm glad I got that word out. That was a tricky word. Say it sometime. Particularizes itself in the individual. The consciousness, universal mind particularizes it. I'm going to say it a couple times so I get it right. In our word, and as we heard earlier in the prayer, in our action, and in our deeds. But nothing can come forth from that. Nothing can come forth fully and individualized as each of us if we don't show up for it. Universal principle is going to show up no matter what. It's alive and well. God is alive and well. Life is happening no matter what. So the question then becomes, how do you want it to show up for you? That's what our work here is. We focus on what is it that I want to manifest? What is it that I want? What qualities of being do I want to experience as I experience the quality of God, of light, of universal consciousness in my own personal, intimate life, my own inner life? And then how do I take that feeling and bring it into the world and example it to all those I come in contact with? That's the work we do. And it's up to us to accept the full responsibility for that. No one's going to do it for you. Your mom can't do it. Your dad can't do it. The church can't do it. No one outside of yourself can increase the sense of fulfillment that you feel personally in your own life. There are many things that we can experience in our lives that bring us happiness, that bring us a sense of achievement, that bring us success, and bring us any qualities of heightened awareness, but ultimately fulfillment is an inside job. We've heard that a million times. Fulfillment is a personal experience, and it's our responsibility to accept the full responsibility for our own sense of self-love, for our own sense of fulfillment. The universe and your life will keep sending you opportunities, messages, people, communities that will be a direct reflection of what you believe for yourself, for what you most truly believe as something you deserve in your life. The universe is going to do that as you believe it to be true. That's the law of attraction. That's the law of reciprocity, the law of fulfillment. So the question then is, what are your hopes? What are your dreams? What are your desires? Not what are the person beside you, their desires. What are yours? And not the desires that your parents had for you in your life. What are yours? No one can answer those questions but you. So I'm going to ask you that question so you can think about it. What does fulfillment look like to you? So I'm going to ask you to answer that. Just popcorn style answer. What does fulfillment look like to you? Does it look like a new car? Just yell it out and I'll repeat it so that it can be heard online. What does fulfillment look like to you? Does it look like peace? Happiness. What does it look like to you? What is fulfillment for you personally in your life? What does it look like? So we can all hear it. Sobriety. Nice. What does it feel like? Love. What is fulfillment for you?
Health and happiness for our children.
Beautiful. What is fulfillment for you? Anyone?
The life I have now.
The life. That is fulfillment. Beautiful. So, those are all great things, obviously. But they are almost a result, and it's a byproduct, those what am I trying to say? Of a feeling. There's a feeling that comes when we achieve those moments, when we achieve a wish for our children and we see that they're happy and they're healthy. But my question beyond what does it look like is what does it feel like? So I'm just going to ask you just to close your eyes for a second. And you think of something that is fulfilling, or a moment in your life when you felt fulfilled. Just a moment. It doesn't have to be anything big. It can be 20 years ago. It can be this morning. It can be last week. What is a moment? What does it feel like to be fulfilled? So just think about that moment. Take a breath. Let's all take a collective breath and just drop a little deeper into the feeling tone in your body. And now just speak the feeling. What does it feel like to be fulfilled? Oneness. What does it feel like? Joy.
Clarity.
clarity. We heard peace earlier. Flow. Full, ease. For me, it feels like grace. For me, it feels, and for someone else, it feels like safety. What does it feel like to be fulfilled? Warm inside. That's beautiful. Bliss, calm, laughing, love. What does it feel like for you? Just take another breath, go a little deeper. If we don't know what it feels like to be fulfilled, we're not going to be peace. That's a beautiful word. We're not going to be able to do the things in our lives that bring us that feeling of fulfillment. Sweetness. Fulfillment isn't a quest. It is a quest, but it's not a moment, a place that we can get to that we say, I am fulfilled. Fulfillment isn't an achievement. Fulfillment is a process. Fulfillment only happens not at the finish line, but during the race. Fulfillment happens in every step of your day. Fulfillment happens in the moment to moment to moment to moment living. So if you haven't opened your eyes, open them now. Come back to the room. It's nice to stay in that feeling tone. And that feeling tone is our most powerful tool. We have these thoughts and we do these prayers and we do these affirmations. Those are nice and they're very powerful, but they're only as powerful as as much as you can embody them. And embody them as a feeling. The feeling tone that you create in your life, that is the vibration that's sent out into the world. And that's the vibration that you all create here that brings guest speakers that want to come back over and over again. That brings guest speakers and singers and musicians and other congregants, and it allowed you to go from 30 people to 50 people to 60 people to 80 people. Not that that's the point, but the point is the vibration that you create by coming together. Like-hearted, like-minded, like-spirited individuals, all coming to fulfill universal principle through you as you. Now I know sometimes we say, I'm too busy to go to church on Sunday, or the center on Sunday. Some people don't like the word church. I'm too busy to pray. I'm too busy to take time to do a spiritual mind treatment. Well, if you're too busy to pray, you're busier than God intended for you to be. If you're too busy, I know, that's a good one, right? If you're too busy to meditate, then you're busier than you should be. If you're too busy to find moments in your life of joy, then you're too busy. Our lives are not supposed to be just a to-do list. Our lives are supposed to be living the fullness of who we are and living love into life. That is what life is supposed to be. Living, if we're an artist, we live our art into reality. That is the whole point. Otherwise, it's just making appointments and building and saving and throwing out and doing all the things that we all do, which is part of being human, but that can't be the whole point of it. I don't think. And certainly it has been the point for me for many years, but I have to make, and this is where I was talking about take personal responsibility. What are the qualities of being that I want to experience in my life? Not things I want to achieve, that's useful, but I want to achieve those things with a certain ease and a certain grace and a certain peace, a certain freedom, a certain happiness. I want to bring all of who I am in my most juicy state to what I'm doing. Where do I want to go? I've got a couple options right here. As you can see, I'll show you. I write a talk, and then I scribble all over it, and then I stand up, and I sit in the meditation, and I open myself, and the song is such a beautiful song, the Raising the Veil song. You know, we have this veil as humans, as the egoic person, as the Patric, as the Rev.Patric, as the whatever we are. And then the goal, and that veil helps us to achieve things and helps us to just to be in the world. That is one of the things that defines us. But then the goal is to raise the veil. So I write the talk, and then I scribble on it, and then I rewrite it, and then I sit, and I raise the veil, and then I let it be. I let it be. And sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's less easy, but I always trust that God will show up for me. God will speak the words that are mine to speak through me. God will pray the prayers that have been placed on my heart through me. God will show up for me through me so that I may do the things that are mine to do. I don't need to do the things that are for you to do. We don't need to do other people's jobs. We need to stay in our lane and fulfill the promise that God has fulfilled in us. Just being alive. There's one quote I like that there is no reason needed for loving. You are loved simply because you are loved. There is no reason needed for us to prove our life, prove our place in this life. Our proof is in the living. I'm going to end my talk today with something I wrote. Now, as a kid, I was told at one point that, oh, you're very good, you're a talented writer. Very little. And then, of course, someone else said something contrary to that, and then I never wrote again. I'm sure I'm the only person that has ever happened to in the room. Something that you were really talented as a young person, often you identified it and you had great success at it, then one person, and it can be literally just one person. And this person was my big brother, one of four of them. He said something to me, and then I never wrote again. Or I did, but I kept it in private. I kept it in my journals. I kept it in scribbles of paper, and I know we all have files and drawers and journals and all sorts of things where we've got aspects of ourselves hidden away. We cannot fulfill the promise of who we are unless we pull those things out of hiding. God cannot fulfill itself in us. Universal principle cannot fulfill itself into the fullness of itself as us if we hide things away. So on that note, I'm going to read something I wrote just a couple weeks ago as I was thinking about this talk. We spend so much of our time thinking on the things that people say that limit us. We spend so much time in this work to get right with what we think so that our word is a representation of who we are, and then we can manifest something and attract something and be something in the world. Well, we have to get right with the words that we think. And most of us aren't clear with what the words we're using really mean to us. And that's just part of our work. That's what we have to do. What does God mean? When I say the word God in this room, and I've said it probably 15 times, we said it in the song, some people have a reaction like, oh, that's church. Oh, that's God. Other people have a reaction, oh, that's okay. And it doesn't matter. Any reaction is fine, but what is it for you? Just get right with the words. I can use God because I don't have any charge around it. I can use Buddha because I don't have any charge around it. But we need to personally get right with the words we use and how we think about them for spiritual mind treatments to work, for all of this to have its effect. So here it goes. When the relationship has grown too small for the love you carry in your heart, when the life has become constrained and confined for the expanse that lay within and beyond you, when the words you use are clipped like the wings of a caged bird, when the eyes you see through are clouded and gray, and the ears you hear with are muted and hollow, and the taste of art has left your lips, when you think you have nothing left to give, when you think the promise has been left broken and soiled, think on these things. Think beyond what you know. Think beyond the words you comprehend. Think past thought itself. Think the kinds of thought prayers that go unworded. Think the kinds of thought prayers that need no answer. Think the kinds of thought prayers that need only to be lived and ingested and surrendered and sung through and spoken aloud. Think on these things. Think on these things. Think the truth about yourself. Not the facts about yourself. Think the truth about yourself. Think of the possibilities of life. Think of the limitlessness that lies in the heart and the mind of spirit. Think of a thought prayer, and think a thought of praise for life itself, for breath, and for creativity itself. Think a thought of gratitude for the very ability to have a thought. And think on that. And then think again. Allow the thought of love to think you. Allow the thought of God to think itself through you and as you. Let it have its way with you. Let it have its thunderous, delicious, glorious way with your very being in this world. Let it have its succulent, rapturous, ecstatic way with you. Let love think you for a change. And then think again. Let God think you for a change. And then think again. Think on these things. Think a smile into being. Think the life into reality. Think the opulence of your essence into the real world. Think aloud all the things you've kept to yourself. There's no time better than this time, so take your time. There's no word better than your word. So speak or write or sculpt your word. There's no voice better than your voice. So lift your voice. Thank your voice, thank your word, and thank your life. Think on these things when you think on yourself. Think on these things when you think of spirit. Think on these things when you think in quiet, when you think aloud, when you think in song, when you think in love, when you think, period. Think on these things. When you think of yourself in the same light as light itself. Think of yourself as love would think of you. And think of yourself as the promise of fulfillment fulfilled. Think of yourself and then let it go. Think on these things and then let it go. Just let go. And be loved in return. Now think on that. And so it is. Thank you.